The Euro 2016 final. For Cristiano Ronaldo, this was it, the single most important match of his career. This was the culmination of a lifelong mission to bring a trophy home to Portugal, his last real shot at capturing the one prize that had always escaped him, a major international title. For years, he'd carried the weight of his nation on his shoulders. He was a giant in the club world, but he was desperate to cement his legacy on the biggest stage of all. But standing in his way, a tough French team, playing on home soil, the heavy favorites to lift the cup in front of a roaring Paris crowd. The stage was set for a legend to finally claim his crown. Then, just 25 minutes into the game, the dream shattered. A collision, a twisted knee, and the gut-wrenching realization that his final was over. For pretty much anyone else, that would have been the end of the story, a tragic side note in a brilliant career. But this isn't the story of how an injury cost Ronaldo the biggest match of his life. This is the story of how it forced him to become something else entirely, the emotional core that willed his team to victory, and what that night revealed about a secret side to his greatness. The moment Dimitri Payet's challenge connected, an entire nation held its breath. Ronaldo went down, clutching his knee. The pain was obvious, but it was nothing compared to the anguish that washed over his face. This wasn't just physical, it was the pain of watching a dream dissolve right in front of him. He tried to fight it, like a warrior refusing to accept defeat. He limped to the sideline, got treatment, and tried to rejoin the battle with his leg heavily strapped. But it was no use. Every step was a struggle, a pale shadow of his usual explosive power. Finally, he collapsed to the grass for the last time, and the captain's armband was passed to Nani, and as Ronaldo sat there on the pitch, the reality hit him. The tears started to flow, completely raw and uncontrollable. In that moment of pure devastation, one of the bizarre images of the tournament happened. A moth famously landed on his face, as if drawn to the sheer emotion of the scene. He was stretchered off, his face buried in his hands, a picture of heartbreak seen by millions. Portugal would have to try and win without their leader, their talisman, their greatest ever player. Down in the dressing room, the despair continued. But as the first half ended and his teammates returned, something inside him began to change. The fallen player was about to be reborn as a leader. What happened next is the stuff of legend. Ronaldo came back out for the second half, not to sit quietly on the bench, but to patrol the technical area. Limping heavily, he transformed from a heartbroken casualty into a furious, passionate, and loud presence on the sideline. He wasn't just a player anymore, he became a second manager, running on pure adrenaline and an unbreakable will to win. He stood right next to the official coach, Fernando Santos, not as a player, but as a partner. He yelled, he pointed, he waved his arms wildly. Every motion was a desperate command for his teammates to keep fighting. The cameras couldn't get enough of it. Here was one of the greatest athletes on the planet, injured and in pain, yet more involved than anyone in the stadium. He wasn't just watching, he was living every single second from the touchline. Now, not everyone was a fan of this. Some saw it as pure ego, a superstar refusing to be sidelined, undermining his manager's authority. But Fernando Santos saw it differently. He defended his captain, saying Ronaldo's presence was a huge help and his passion was infectious. Santos knew this wasn't about ego, it was about a captain refusing to abandon his men. He believed, just like Ronaldo, that this was their night. But here's a surprising twist to the story, revealed years later by defender José Fonte, who played all 120 minutes. He admitted that with the deafening noise of the stadium and the intense pressure, the players on the pitch couldn't actually hear or even notice Ronaldo's instructions. They only realized the extent of his antics after the match, when they saw the replays. This suggests Ronaldo's impact wasn't tactical, but something more elemental. He was a powerful, visible symbol of belief. His teammates might not have heard his words, but they could feel his presence. As the game stretched into the agonizing minutes of extra time, the tension was almost unbearable. The score was still 0-0, and it was here that Ronaldo's influence became undeniable, not through tactics, but through pure motivation. He had already given a powerful speech at halftime, but now he focused on individuals. The most important of these moments was with a substitute striker named Eder. Eder had barely played in the tournament, a forgotten man on the team. But as he was about to go on, Ronaldo pulled him aside, and what he said next would become football prophecy. Eder later revealed the conversation, saying, "Ronaldo told me I would score the winning goal for the team." He said Ronaldo gave him strength and positive energy. It was a transfer of belief from a man who couldn't make the difference himself to the one man who still could. In the 109th minute, that prophecy was fulfilled. Eder took the ball 25 yards from the goal and unleashed a blistering low shot that flew into the bottom corner. The Stade de France was shocked into silence. But on the Portuguese sideline, there was an explosion. Ronaldo erupted. He sprinted, or maybe hobbled and hopped is a better way to put it, down the touchline in a frenzy of pure, unfiltered joy. He grabbed Santos, shouted at the sky, and pounded his chest. It was the release of every ounce of frustration, pain, and hope he had felt that night. This wasn't the celebration of a bystander. It was the roar of a man who had poured every fiber of his being into this win. When the final whistle finally blew, Ronaldo collapsed again, but this time they were tears of pure joy. As captain, he was the one to lift the trophy, completing his journey from agony to ecstasy. That victory wasn't just a cup for Portugal, it showed the world a new side of Cristiano Ronaldo. It showed a man whose leadership went beyond his own incredible skills. He proved that his greatest asset wasn't just his feet, but his heart and his mind. The image of him on the sideline became iconic, a symbol of his character. Naturally, this sparked a huge debate. Was this a preview of manager Ronaldo? The passion, the leadership, the football brain, it all seemed to point to a future in the dugout. Many believed he had the raw traits to be a great manager. However, Ronaldo himself has consistently poured cold water on that idea. For years, he said he doesn't see himself becoming a coach, finding the idea very difficult. More recently, he suggested he doesn't have the passion for this generation of players and might prefer a different role, like a club owner after he retires. So what does that mean? While Ronaldo may publicly dismiss the idea of coaching, the Euro 2016 final will always be a powerful piece of evidence to the contrary. It showed a man who understands motivation on a primal level. He might not be drawing plays, but his ability to inspire is undeniable. He has an almost pathological obsession with winning and a standard of excellence that could either forge a championship team or clash dramatically with players who don't share his intensity. Perhaps the story of that night is not about a secret future as a legendary manager. Perhaps it's simpler. It's the story of a leader who, when stripped of his best weapon, found another way to guide his troops to victory. He couldn't score the goal, so he inspired the man who did. He couldn't run the miles, so he lived them from the sideline. The night he was supposed to be the hero on the pitch, Cristiano Ronaldo became a legend on the touchline. He showed the world that his impact isn't just about the goals he scores, but the belief he inspires. Whether he ever decides to step into management or not, for 120 minutes in Paris, he gave us a glimpse of a different kind of greatness. A greatness born from sacrifice, passion, and an unbreakable desire to win. What do you think? Was this a one-time emotional outburst, or did the Euro 2016 final truly reveal the soul of a future manager? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories behind the biggest moments in football.